small to mid-sized business owner that is trying to get some information. And maybe this person can be like me. Sometimes I'm an insomniac, or I could be in Europe, or I could be on a trip, or I'm on a crazy time zone and I can't get to the information that I want to get to. And then I'm going to say, hey, we got this new application called Dynamics 365, and these consultants from TM Group came over and showed me that if you know how to use Office 365, which I do, you can get to your ERP application with just a couple clicks, and I'm going to show you that. So the situation is that I'm the business owner. I've made a deal with my customer to get this thing shipped out on our second shift yesterday. If you remember, we were at an account yesterday that had 3 shifts. So there's things happening at midnight, and they talked about that. So I just wanted to see, my director of operations said, okay, we'll get this out second shift, and it's a big order, it's a big deal, and I want to see if the shipment was made. So that's what this is all about. So the first thing I do is I'm in 4:30 in the morning, I can't sleep, I'm a little worried about this, I'm on a crazy time zone, and I want to get into my Office 365. So I sign in. And up comes this screen that kind of gives me a menu of things that I really don't use. I think maybe the technical people use this stuff. I don't use it, but I do use mail. I do use calendar. I do use people and a few other things on here, but the consultant showed me how to use this guy right here because I want to see if this thing was shipped. Okay, so I just click on that. And it comes up with what they call, or what we call, our ERP system, and it's called Microsoft Dynamics 365. Before I go a lot farther, and I'm going to get out of my role playing here, just to show you a couple things on this screen. First of all, right here, there's what we call a profile. And in this particular case, this is the business manager profile in our company called Cronus USA. And you can see that there are some activities that are set up here. Quotes, how many quotes do I have? How many orders, invoices, and what my sales are? These things are customizable, but this is how I have it set up. Each and every profile has a different set of tiles. Furthermore, you can get to sales quotes, sales orders, sales invoices, purchase invoice, and that's how this is set up. Also, if you look over here on the right-hand side, we've got these graphs, okay? We can get to the key performance indicators, and we can take a look at some of the graphs that I have set up. Let's go to the next graph here. It'll show you some other things for total revenue, total expenditure, etc. Let's go previous. We can set up the different types of charts that you want to see. Also, some of the accounts that we like to watch. If I'm the business owner, I like to watch my cash. I like to see my accounts payable, and I like to see accounts receivable, how much money I owe. And then over here on the right-hand side, I've set up a trial balance. Total revenue, total cost, gross margin, always nice to know by period, previous periods, and so forth. And each one of these, you can see are hyperlinks. So if I want to drill down into total revenue to find out how I arrived at $44,000, I'll get to that. Yeah, here it is. And here are the transactions that got me to that number. The point is that you can, if you want to, you can take a look at these in detail. You can take a look at your balance sheet, income statements, and other types of statements. I always was concerned about NAV is when you just say, hey, all I want to see is a balance sheet. All I want to see is an income statement. Well, NAV's got some funny words for those. Those are called account schedules. This now allows us to take a look at balance sheets. I'll click on a balance sheet, and I also want to show how each and every report is run. This has been completely re-engineered. These are running
in. This part's completely different from what's in NAV.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. It's going to go over to my first, not my primary screen, but this screen. And now I've got a balance sheet. That simple. You can't do this in NAV. Completely different.
Cool.
You get an account schedule. And I think this is great. Okay, so back to my scenario. I'm a guy, I'm an insomniac. I want to find out if the transaction that we talked about on the phone yesterday actually happened. I know that my chief operations officer, I can't get to him. The plant's probably changing shifts. I just need to know the information because I'm getting ready to go on another trip and I'll be incommunicado here for most of the day. First thing that we do is we go into the items. And in Nav, the Dynamics 365, these are what items look like. And these are new presentations that we've got. Here is the traditional Nav item list that I'm familiar with. They've added what is not in Nav, but a quantity on hand. Okay, that's nice. That's a hyperlink, and you can go into that. Okay, you also can go into much larger pictures of the items, and this little number here is the on-hand balance, and this is the cost of these items right here. And you can also kind of go into a hybrid kind of thing where there's a small thumbnail, picture, and then a description of the items, and that's what I'll work with today.
Cool.
But I am interested in my item 1896. 1896 is what we call the Moscow chair. I'm going to open that up. And this is what's called the item card, and this is where the item information is, and there's lots of interesting stuff on here. But the first thing you can see, I don't have any on hand. But when I want to go and try to get my question answered, so I'm going to take a look at what they call ledger entries, which is the history of what happened. And up come the list of transactions that happened. And depending on the type of transaction and how I might want to see this list, it will tell me that sure enough, yesterday on 3/1/2016, this invoice was processed for this particular item. Now, if that was for something that you would have bought, if it was for something that you wanted to ship, it would be the same thing. This line right here shows you that 3 of these went out on this invoice on this date. Okay? So this is a list of the transactions. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. Within like 3 minutes, I've been able to say, I get into my ERP system, take a look at the item that I'm interested in, take a look at the historical records, and I can see if this item in fact went out. Just one thing also, that when we ever get into a list like this, on every list that you'll see a button up here that says open in Excel. So I'm going to open in Excel and just show you how this comes across. Comes across as a filtered one. So if I'm going to look at my purchases or my transactions in January, I can go ahead and do that. If I want to further filter that list by just purchases, I can do that by doing this. And I'm not a good Excel person, but I've taken a pretty good sized chunk of data and I have limited it and filtered it by purchase invoices for the month of January with 2 clicks. Okay. Any questions so far?
Nope.
All right. So the CEO, wherever they are, and I think an important concept here is wherever he is, wherever she is, if they have to get access to their ERP system, it's as easy as signing into their Office 365 account and then go ahead and then jumping into their their ERP system called Microsoft Dynamics 365.
So as long as they have an internet connection and they can connect to it remotely from wherever they are.
Right. And a couple ways to get to navigate around in here. I'm just going to show you some navigations here on an important list. This is the item list. Remember, you can take a look at it as a list with bigger pictures and smaller pictures. Okay. And some interesting things that are on the top here. All nav screens have what we call ribbons up here at the top. Okay. I showed you this particular one for history, but there's some ribbon information here on costing, master data, and I'm going to talk about attributes here in a second. Interesting new addition there. Also for actions, whatever entries, cross references, these kinds of things are all available on what we call the ribbon. I'm going to click on this home here and I'm going to say, if I want to go to the finance modules, it'll take me right to the finance modules. If I want to go to the sales modules, it'll take me right to the sales modules. You can see now things start to light up over here in what we call the fast panel panes over here, and so quotes, orders, and so forth, and then you can go to
Now, when you
purchasing.
said, what did you call those panels on the right-hand side?
Uh, fast panels.
Fast panels? And so
Yeah,
as you highlight, like in this case, a vendor, if you were to highlight another vendor,
yeah,
it gives kind of the KPIs for that record over on the right.
right.
Cool.
Are they changing? Yes, they are changing. They should be
Yep.
changing. So I'm going to go home, and that takes me back to my original screen that I first came in here. Okay, came in here to see. Okay, so that's the first scenario that we would show higher level people that this is how you get access to it, and this is how you can go ahead and navigate through the system. So from the business manager role model, you can see there's quotes, orders, invoices, and sales this month. All I have to do is a sales quote. If I want to add a sales quote, I click on that. It takes me down to the sales quote number, and this is for our customer number 3,000, which is the Canon, 10,000, which is the Canon group. And as I type, you can see that brings it right in. And I'm going to order an item, the Athens desk, and I'm going to give them a quote, give them a quote for one of them. And I'm finished with that quote. Now, at that point in time, I have generated now this quote number. You can see, let me put my cursor on it. The number SQO quote 1013. So if I go back, we now have a quote for this particular customer for this Athens desk. Now, the next thing to do is to send this by email. There's a couple ways to do that, but I'm going to just click the button here, and you can see that I am hooked up. Since I signed on through Office 365, I am hooked up through Outlook, and I'm now using the Dynamics 365 client, or I guess you could say the connection here. So if I send by email, I should get a dialog box here that says, okay, where would you like to send this quote? Probably to the customer. Now, this email address is set up on the customer. So that's where Dynamics 365 is getting this email address that's set up on the customer. So I'm going to send it, click OK, and it's working. All right, now you just heard the chime come in, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, there is a sales quote that has come in for Mark Hoekstra, and my phone just lit up too. All right?
Okay.
So I'm going to leave this right here.
And that was because you sent the quote to yourself.
Correct.
For the demonstration purposes.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a look at how this looks, the sales quote. So now the sales quote that I just generated here is now appearing in my email box, and this is what it looks like, and there's the PDF attachment, which I will open right now. Okay, so there's the sales quote. Once I've made a quote, I now have the ability to email that with just a one click, and it appears in my customer's email box. Furthermore, my quotes have been incremented now by one. Okay, the Canon group. Remember, I was at 5, now I'm at 6.
Yep.
So I'm going to get to my quote again and say, okay, the customer calls me back and said, that sounds like a great idea. I like what you did, and I'd like you to order that up for me. Well, right next.
But he wants a 5% discount.
And he wants a 5% discount. All right. So now I'm going to make the order. I could resend it, but I'm going to make the order. It says, do you want to convert the quote to an order? Yes. And the quote now has been converted to sales order 10,005. Do you want to open the new order? Yes, I'd like to see that. So now here's the sales order 101005 for the Canon Group for the Athens desk for one piece, and it did bring over your little sales discount. Yeah. Okay. Let me send. I need to email the confirmation of the sales order to you now, and it's going to send it to me, and I'll email that to myself. So I should be getting a notification in here. Let me get rid of that. There's the sales order now. So I open that up. Now I can take a look at this as in the PDF and see what this comes over as. And let me maximize this screen here. And now that's the sales order confirmation. Okay, so just to review what I've done here is I've entered a customer quote. Customer wanted a quote for one piece, one of these Athens desks. They wanted a quote first. They approved the quote, and I turned that quote into a sales order, and now we have a sales order confirmation. Any questions on how I got there?
No, it looks great.
So at this point now, I can ship the Athens. To me, I would, want to see if I have it on hand to ship. And at that point, you can go ahead and just take a look at the list. And there's the Athens desk. Do you have any on hand? Yes, we do. We can go ahead and ship it. Now, I could be doing this from a hotel room. I don't have to be in the plant to do this. I could go ahead and post it. Ship and invoice. So after this is done, it's done. Here is the posted invoice that you can send the customer and say, okay, this is what we call our posted sales invoice to show that we did post the invoice, ship it, and so forth. But what I want to do, is I want to go into the history and see if it was posted. There's our Athens desk. And let me look at the history file again here that I showed you earlier. And there's my shipment for one. I can take a look at all the transactions that it did. Here's the posted sales shipment. I can take a look at the shipment document. I can email that document. I can print that document, whatever you want to do. But anyway, here's the historical record of what just happened. So now I've taken it from quote, the sales order, to shipment, and posted the shipment. The statement is so bad in standard nav, we've never done it. Oops, sorry. They've cleaned this up. So I'm going to get the standard statement out here for this particular customer, and I'm going to expand the date on this to be sure I get, all the transactions that should be in there. So I basically asked the statement for a year. So this is going to be a customer statement, and they reworked this whole thing. Looks a lot better. Let's take a look at this. So here's the customer statement that I just ran. It shows you all the financial information that happened to this particular customer. Everyone from the one I just did all the way down to, all the way through the year. Now that first screen that I showed you, that's how you filter this. But I wanted to make sure we got some transactions in here. So now I've showed you how they might use Microsoft Dynamics 365, and then I've also kind of showed you how to take a customer quote, a customer inquiry, customer quote, and then turn that customer quote into customer sales order, ship that customer sales order, check the historical records, and run the statement on the financial implications of that particular order. Now the next part of this is I'm going to talk a little bit about managing your inventory in Microsoft Dynamics 365. And the first thing we're going to do is start to take a look at trying to track what is our best-selling items. What are the items that have really been moving lately? So to get started with that, we start to ask Nav, Dynamics 365, to run some reports for us. And from there, let me go back to where I was. I was on the item list where we've been before. I'm going to go to the report section here on the ribbon, and I'm going to run inventory statistics. Inventory statistics has a report called Inventory Top 10. All right? And I'm going to run the whole list of items, and this is how we can filter. Let's say, for instance, we were just at an account yesterday where they had 5,000 items that they had to keep track of. This is where you can filter that list to maybe get down to a tighter group that you might want to start to track. So here are attributes that you can put on your filter and make the list a little bit more easy to read. But for my purposes, since I have a rather small list here, I'm going to run them all. There it is. And I will open that. It will send it up here. And let's get that open for you. So this is what Dynamics 365 is saying is our top 20 largest sale items in the company.
Okay.
All right. 1968, the Mexico swivel chair is what I'm going to start to take a look at, okay? Because I'm starting to get some questions, or how are we doing on where we are in that part as far as planning goes, okay? Because it's in our top 20. So to do that, we run this report here called Purchase Advice. It's kind of like a report that you can use for planning that starts to tell you when you start to run short. And this is what it looks like. First of all, it gives you basically all the master data information off of here, okay? And here's the description of the item that we're talking about. And here's quantity on hand, quantity on sales order, quantity on back order, and here's the key thing. I have -9 available. So you better order some more, because the order point is you've met your order point. Here's the negative available. For planning purposes, this is how many I have, this is how many I owe, this is how many I'm short, and this is some lead time that I'm going to have to deal with on this. So the purchase advice report gives you a basic starting point on what you want to do with this item. Couple things. Let me add one more on hand real quick, okay?
Okay.
So if I wanted to adjust inventory, I'll rerun this report. If I want to take a look at the 1968 Mexican swivel chair, and I want to edit that, and I want to adjust the inventory, this is the screen that comes up, and it's a beautiful thing. Currently the inventory is 1, the new inventory is 2. I press OK, and it takes that long. Okay? Awesome. Okay. In Nav, impossible to do it that way. It takes several more steps. So let's just take a look at what that did to my purchase advice, because now I have a couple more. I have one more on hand, and my available calculation should have changed. Now instead of 9, it's 8, because I put an extra on hand. That's what this report does for you. It's kind of a planning tool that kind of helps you. So on purchase orders, if we're going to do a replenishment order or a purchase order, there's a couple ways. If you remember the navigation I told you, we could go to Home and we could go to Purchasing. Then we can create a purchase order. Purchase invoices, new. And our vendor is 3,000. 30,000, Coolwood Technologies in Miami. And we're going to order our 1968 item. Mexican swivel chair. Order one of those. And what is the date today? Date today is the 31st. Okay, so it's $148.10. You want a discount, sir?
Yeah, give him 2.5.
Ooh. Yeah, percent, 2.5. Okay, so now it's down to 145. Now I'm going to post this transaction because it came in. Oh, sorry. This, when they have these little red stars here, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to make sure I add something, okay?
Required field.
Yep, it's a required field, and these required fields can be moved around, but normally for the vendor invoice number, when you post it, you want to do that. So post the invoice. The invoice has been posted. Let's go back to our item number 1968. Now, how would I do that? I could go back here. I could go to the home. I could go to items, and I could go to a new look. I could go to 1968, and I can take a look at the history, the ledger transactions on what happened on March 31. March 31 was the purchase order for one, and it is now recorded with the discount. So we've got those, and just so that you know, when we set up the item, or what we call in our business the master data, we set up this vendor. This vendor now is attached to this item every time. That's the default vendor number. Any questions so far?
No, it looks great.
Okay. Now we have a sales representative demo where he's a person. He could be on his phone. He could be on his tablet. He could be in his car, in the parking lot of the customer, or prospect, I should say, or it's a customer and they want new items, or you could be at a trade show. Because we're going to start to talk about opportunities now, which are different than customers.
Okay.
Opportunities are maybe somebody you've met and they're interested in your products as an opportunity. So in Dynamics 365, opportunities. So there's a list, and here's the opportunity list that I'm interested in. So these are opportunities that I have in my system right now. They're not quotes. They're just opportunities. And a couple things that you'll note is that it comes with a specific opportunity number, what day it was created, who the contact is, and what the status is. All right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to open up this particular bow and arrow set right here, and you can see that the contact here is with Katniss Everdeen. Mm-hmm. And Katniss Everdeen is with the customer called The Revolution, I believe. Anyway, this is what an opportunity card looks like, and at this point there are lines that are attached to the opportunity. And you can see this opportunity now was created here. There's no estimated value put in here yet. And this is the button that you click to update the opportunity. So you can say, okay, I want to move it to the next sales cycle. What was the change? What is the estimated sales value, chances of success, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you can see that line updated it. That's on an opportunity now. Okay, once we get an opportunity, we can go back to the list, and there are some actions that we can do with this opportunity. We can create a sales quote off it. We show the sales quote that comes off of this, if there is one. We can assign a sales quote if there is one. On this particular one, I don't think there's one assigned to it. Oh, yeah, there sure enough is. Okay, so now from this opportunity, we have a sales quote attached to it. And I showed you how a sales quote can go to a sales order. The next step in this to say, okay, further in front of this, you can have an opportunity. It can turn into a sales quote can turn into an order can turn into a shipment, and so forth, right on down the line. So that's how this whole thing is connected. Now, item attributes. if you have a inquiry from a customer and the sales rep doesn't really know the answer, and he's going to have to get some data on this. The customer starts giving them information that, all right, and in my example and in my database, Mark, I wanted, do you guys have fabric chairs?
Okay.
And I say, yes, I've got fabric chairs. And here's the deal, Mark. We don't need any other color but red. Okay, so if we take a look at the item list, you can see that I do have some chairs, but I've got, and let's say there were thousands here that I had to sort through. I might just want to say, I just want to take a look at the chairs that are red. So let me take a look at the item, the attributes here of what I have set up. I have set up two attributes, material and color.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have, there can be more. You can see I can add more attributes. So if you had further attributes on this, let's say that you started to add some dimensional information here to this list, where you can say I want chairs that are, let's say, 30 inches high, and I want chairs that have casters on the bottom instead of legs. And I think you catch my drift. You can have a lot of different attributes on these, and you can start to see what the attribute would be and then what the value would be for the material or the color. So in my case, I'm going to go after fabric. And then I want to search it now again for another attribute for color. And I want to find the color of red. I say OK. And those are the attributes that I have set up. So now I'm going to filter the database by the same filter that I had set: material, value, fabric. OK. Material attribute would now be color. Value would be red. And I would say OK. And now, I don't know why it picked up this. Well, that's because when I set up my demo, Ken, I was experimenting with this. I would now just remove those. I could, but I'm not going to do that now. The point is, it did come up with the red chairs. And then if you're done with this, you just clear your attribute file, filter, and it brings back the list. So this allows a sales rep to look at their database by, like, for example, we were working with a fastener account once that had a lot of stainless steel, galvanized, and regular fasteners, machine screws in such and such a dimension. And with a fastener company, they have literally thousands of different SKUs that they have to keep track of. This is a way in which this product will allow you to categorize and assign attributes other than item descriptions to a particular item, and then filter those attributes at the same time. So that's what item attributes are.
Neat.
So what do you think, Ken?
And the attributes are another new thing that's not in Nav?
Brand new. You can see that they didn't, the people that wrote this, Ken, did not bring over variants. There are variants, the same kind of thing, in Nav, but they don't work very good. Very few people use them.
So they re-engineered it.
They did, and I think they call them attributes now.
Cool.
This is how a sales rep can create an opportunity. They can answer customer questions by looking at item attributes on items and answer questions that customers have specifically about dimensions or dimensional characteristics or attributes of an item, colors, different types of the same product that don't necessarily are called for out in the item descriptions. So that's what item attributes are. It's brand new.
Awesome. So on this Madeira pre-release, I know that Dynamics 365 for financials is going to include financials, fixed assets, supply chain management stuff, opportunity management, workflow, and project management. Now, is project management in this version that you have so far in Madeira, or you're not seeing it yet?
I don't see it,
I
Ken.
don't think you're seeing it yet. Thanks, Mark, for that overview of the new Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Financials package. That looks really cool.
Sure, anytime, Ken.
All right, so if anyone would like to get a hold of the TM Group to learn more about how we can help you with a Microsoft Dynamics implementation, you can call our toll-free number at 888-482-2864.
And if you'd like to reach me direct, my email address is markh@tmgroupinc.com.
Great, Mark. Thanks a lot.
Okay.